Welcome everyone to another cast. This is another best of 3 from the Home Story Cup replays. So if you watched the entirety of Home Story Cup, you probably saw this best of 3. If you didn't, like I didn't do, then you have no idea what happened. So great, welcome to the cast. Looks like I did not put on sounds. There we go. In the top right, as the red Protoss, it is Zest. And in the bottom left, there's the blue Terran. He is MMA. Big MMA fan. Awesome guy. Obviously one of the better champions I guess we've had, personality-wise, just legacy-wise. Almost got that BlizzCon title, but not quite. And then he went off to military service for 2 years, of which he has finally completed, and that is why he is back here today. Home Story Cup being one of his first offline appearances, which I guess actually maybe the technical first offline appearance since his military absence was Nation Wars. I think that actually might be true, but I'm not 100% about that one. But this is certainly one of the firsts. This is also a tournament that Zest won just last year. He won the Winter Home Story Cup, so he was the reigning champion of this Home Story Cup that I'm casting right now. But I don't know. I guess in the interest of saving you guys from some spoilers, I'll try not to say who, you know, gets ahead or who wins the cup. I actually don't know who wins here, but it was a very big tournament with round-robin groups, as well as, of course, you know, the regular round of 32 stuff. So I don't really remember who got through, because what I really only watched was the finals. But I guess I kind of spoiled it right then and there. But you don't know what the semifinals are, guys. Don't worry about it. It's like only somewhat of a spoiler. You don't know if Zest or MMA got through very far, and neither do I. I want to say Zest gets through, though, and not because I know something of the bracket results, but because I think that MMA's TVP is still the matchup that he has the most to learn from. And I say learn from very specifically instead of like practice or develop or something like that along those lines, because I think there's a difference between like learning how a matchup kind of works as opposed to learning maybe the mechanics of it, you know, like, oh, I always miss my extra barracks after I go for a tank push because I'm still a little sloppy. That's very different than like, you know, knowing like, okay, this is a time where I just simply cannot push the Protoss. This is a time where I should be pushing the Protoss, like that type of thing, which really, really highlights these pro players because, you know, you can get your mechanics up to Master, even Grandmaster, and maybe you'll have to worry about it somewhat. In this league, you have to worry about it a lot. Now, I had the Reaper go ahead and scout, so even though it died, it was not such a big deal. As I did see the Stargate, I also saw 2 Adepts pop out, which is like a pretty good sign anyways. And then Oracle is, of course, going to be Chrono boosted out. But Zest is also bringing along those Adepts. Sometimes you can even get a 3rd one in here, fit that in, and you have 3 Adepts and an Oracle, and you can actually take down whatever they have at the front. MMA's gone for a typical 1-1-1, but it looks like he only made 1 Widow Mine and then went right into that factory. So I'm not sure he's going to go into tanks. Oh, did he dodge that out? Oh, Zest, you're so cool. It is possible to dodge the Widow Mine, but I'm not even sure that was on purpose. It seemed like it was just coincidental. The Widow Mine's going to die, of course. Looks like there was a awkward pause, as it does reveal itself now after it's you know, popped. So that is just going right into a tank. It was kind of close to the starport, which is I was like, oh, is it going to mix things up? But not really mixing things up so much as playing pretty safe game. There is a lot of things to be said about the Widow Mine drop, but one of them is, you know, it's not really super effective as it once was. It still gets you scouting. It still, you know, can do a couple of probes of the damage, but honestly, you know they're going for a Stargate first of all. I already scouted that, and it's very rare to have anything immediately following that, like a 2-base charge line or something like that. It's almost always going to be a 3rd base, but like it's just you don't think it's going to do damage. Maybe you respect your opponent enough to think that. Then getting a Viking, getting that Oracle kill, and going for an earlier tank push can do wonders. A lot of Stargate openers get a very, very fast 3rd base. I mean, if Zest thought he could get away with it, he could have even pushed off these 2 gateways and gone for a Nexus before those. But MMA leaves the base and Zest just runs it with the 2 Adepts that are still alive. Would have been able to pop off one, but not the other. So this complicates matters, as that's a lot of lost mining time. But Zest also needs to worry about eventually getting his 3rd base. So he's not going to, you know, have to cancel it. He's not going to lose it, but he will eventually need it. And that's kind of the the crux of the game right now is like, can this actually do a lot of damage to stay put? And I guess MMA is not going to be able to do much here, as 3 oracles really helping out. Don't usually see more than 2 oracles, or hell, maybe they only go for 1 if they think that they can keep it alive. But that is a total of 4 oracles. 4 oracles. And that was a good call. I think going for Phoenix also might have worked. You can pick up the tank and just a couple of those Marines. It still is pretty good. But the Oracles obviously did what they were designed to do. In that case, defend that push. So Zest did have to hold off on his third base a little bit, but keep in mind he got that SCV denial on the mining. He almost catches MMA without a bunker, but he would have had to shade again to get on top of the tank, and that would have been complicated. Not exactly a counterattack he could do very much with unless he had the Oracles with him, and they were kind of meandering through the middle of the map, taking some things out. A Phoenix was eventually made. Not sure why. Oh, you know what? It popped. You know, I actually know why I did it. It's kind of cool. It scouts and it won't die. I mean, if it does die, then so be it. But a Widowmine doesn't actually one-shot a Phoenix like it does an Oracle. So it could take the Widowmine hit, which it does, only a bit of splash on the Adepts, and then the Oracles are free to just wreak havoc. And there is the attack that he wanted to do. You know, finally the Oracles come through, and that's gonna be the kicker. I think it's actually just a dead MMA. Zest. Ooh, I kind of like this. This seems like a very powerful snapback on a very typical tank push. Protosses are all over the world are trying to find ways to really punish a push like that, or even a later one. There's a little more units, but a few more units. English is hard. But Zest is the first time I've seen that Foracle attack works so damn well. So GG takes game number 1. All right, we're headed into game number 2 of this best of 3. In the top left, as the red Protoss, it is Zest. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, it is MMA. So MMA doing what is a very typical builds nowadays, but also like very specially on Lost and Found. We go on a Catalyst, and while tank pushers can still work here, tank pushers can work anywhere, don't get me wrong. There are some maps that have better angles of attack than others, such as Dreamcatcher, right? Dreamcatcher has that nice little ridge around whatever third base they end up taking that you can set your tanks up behind. Catalyst, not so much. What Catalyst has, though, is the ability to reinforce very quickly. It's the shortest map of the map pool, I'm pretty sure, although Dreamcatcher, literally natural to natural through the middle of the map, is not as big as you would think, but we don't have Fenner anymore to do the actual, you know, from base to base, how long does it take? Maybe I should do that. But anyways, think about that later. The point is that the Catalyst is one of the shortest maps we have, and from this position here to this position, which it almost is like 100% of the time, is pretty damn short. But again, like that, it's such an expected thing. I was talking about how Protoss, and in the last game, all of them are trying to figure out ways to really punish a build like this. Zest goes for 4 Oracles and sends his Adepts in. Okay, cool. It was pretty damn cool, actually. But you also have people trying to control the map with Blink Stalkers and go for a lot of Blink Stalkers to punish via either not quite a base trade, but, you know, constantly running in when the tanks move out, or by simply, like, getting us around. The tank push really is only good when it takes out like a sufficient number of units as long as it dies, basically. Like you target fire the stalkers and it dies but did some damage, or your opponent is doing a build that doesn't have it quite prepared. Like they can see it coming, right? They can know about it for minutes, which is a long time in StarCraft 2. But if they're not with a build that actually gives them a lot of positioning out on the map, or if they're found out of position because they're, you know, trying to be too fancy with their stalkers and they have to run back home to defend, that's when tank pushes seem to really do a lot of damage. You also have the miscellaneous category, I suppose, where some people don't know how to deal with tank pushes, but you don't find those people very often in pro games, right? So that's, you know, the tank push usually at this stage is just trying to even things out, or maybe catch the Protoss a little too clumped up so it snowballs when it really shouldn't. Or you have some of the really cool builds that MMA would certainly be able to do, but I think Innovation's been doing recently, which is a 2-base all-in with it. But talking a lot about tanks, it's not tanks, at least not for now. The opening with the reactor might mean that he won't bother with tanks at all, but it's always a hard thing to call because tanks aren't only good for attacking, they are very good for defense, which is kind of why they exist in the first place, because they don't actually get better in time like they do versus Zerg. They just, after about 4 or 5 tanks, they actually get worse, but they're so good defensively and in the early game. So Hellions first, into Cyclones, at a tech lab on the barracks. That might be for stim. It also might be to swap off for those tanks because, you know, depending on how this goes, he might have to really worry about Zest snapping back, basically, being like, well, you know, the hell with you too, and countering. And Zest is going for Blink, which MMA doesn't know about, and that's pretty big. That's, you know, the difference between a Blink opener and a Stargate opener is really big when you do this type of build, as the Stargate opener might have a weakness, especially if they don't go for more than one Oracle or any Phoenixes or anything like that. The Stalker build, all it needs to do is hold on for the first 30 seconds, which a shield battery will allow it to do, and then once Blink is done and they have about 6 Stalkers, they can actually counter. So, you know, you don't get the same quite counter with a Stargate opener as you do with these Blink Stalkers. So I would personally be worried as MMA. He is getting a bunker, which is, you know, step number 1, and he did just go for the stim and get a couple Widow Mines to help out, so that's kind of cool. But this, it's no longer about the Cyclones, it's about those Hellions actually bypassing everything. Stalkers weren't quite warped in, weren't quite ready to go, and the probes were not pulled, so maybe a pull would have been better. 2 Hellions, 2-shot probes, so ideally they don't get that really perfect lineup twice of the probes, but with how Zest did it and the shield battery prioritizing the Stalkers, which, you know, they probably should have done anyways, but that hurt the probes. That's 10 probes down just for letting the Hellions do whatever. But it's kind of like, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm saying this as if Zest did something wrong, and I'm not even saying that he really is. It's just like, both choices could have done better, maybe. But sometimes just leaving your probes to mine is the better answer than pulling them. It's sometimes a hard decision to make. There's 2 Widow Mines here. Blink is good on the first one, and the second one, the second one didn't pop off, but either MMA assumed that it would, or he just had them both hotkeyed. So a bit of a lost second shot there, but now he knows the Stalkers are on the way, and he has to prepare for their repair. You know what, actually 6 Stalkers isn't that bad. It's a full bunker. And it wasn't even about the bunker. He just blinks right past. But by blinking into the natural, he doesn't have to blink to the main for... Okay, now he does. But now he has to wait again for blink down to the low grounds. He's going to lose 1 more Stalker here, but it ends up going pretty okay. That wasn't so bad. I was afraid he would lose maybe 3 Stalkers. He does take a lot of damage on them, which might come back to bite him. But you know what? Zest evened up that worker kill count. 10 probes went down. 9 SCVs go down. Zest also has grabbed his 3rd base already, which is the course of things in PvT nowadays. And also might be able to grab a tank. That's really nice. Some micro on the Stalkers. Okay. MMA equally micro there, but there's a Warp Prism here. He got that Robo a while ago and was only using it for an Observer, and then the Warp Prism now going into that Immortal production, which he will absolutely need once MMA kind of calms things down, basically, here. Like, once he has enough bio, especially if he gets Medivacs out, the Stalker harassment's no longer going to be possible. It's just possible right now because he had prioritized that factory production, which is all dead at this point. But let's talk about the Warp Prism. Let's also talk about the Dark Shrine that just finished up. There it is in the natural of all things. Easily scouted by a Hellion or something like that, but they're all dead, aren't they? So this is going to go unscouted, but MMA has been holding on to a scan. He's actually been holding on to a lot of scans, and that actually might be because, yeah, he's been dealing with everything. So I don't think that was premonition. Oh, no, he did see it. Oh, look at that. A Marine and SCV, something went in there and saw that, so that's why he wasn't holding on to him. That's why he has a missile turret at the front. I was about to go into talking about that, but even has a missile turret in the main, so I'm just blind. I was the one that was focused too much on the Blink Stalkers, which Zest was absolutely trying to do to MMA, but whenever scouted that was nicely done. Putting in the main would have been the better move. Well, but that just means Zest has Dark Shrine capabilities later on in the game. Does it suck that he can't do anything with it? Yes. I mean, that's still a cost, right? But the Dark Shrine is made cheaper a long time ago at this point, years ago. Oh my god, that Observer saw the Medevac pickup. Okay, can't deal with it. But he can blink in and take out what little is left over. But there are some more units here, and it's just Stalkers with no upgrade quite yet. He prioritized that Twilight Council over the Forges. I should say charge over the Forges, and why he went for 2 Forges, only just started +1. If +1 is done for these Stalkers, it is a pretty big difference. Stalkers drastically changed from what they once were. Changed over and over and over again, actually. But can Zest hold on back at home? MMA is going to go for the main. It looks like that pylon looks awfully juicy, but there's too much around it. So into the main he goes. One single, two Widow Mines. One's going to pop off on the probes here. Nope. Gets the Zealots. And gets a Zealot. Not too bad. But this is... I feel like it's just not going very well for MMA. He has not yet dealt with the Stalkers. He has not taken out the War Prism. He has nothing to do so. And his production is camped, and that is it. Zest, 2-0's MMA. GG. I did say MMA had a weakness to Protoss, but didn't expect it to go like this. Well done, Zest. Hello again. I know I said a best of 3 earlier on in the cast, but I was mistaken. It was a best of 5. So both verbally and on the scoreboard, I messed up. But Zest is ahead 2-0, and here he is spawning on Acid Plant in the top left. In the bottom right, as the Blue Terran, it is MMA. Again, taking this from the Home Straight Cup replay pack, publicly available if you would like to see these games on your own, study the builds, do some of your own casts, more than welcome to. A lot of people have these public replays. I think Valencia just finished up at the time that I'm casting this, and those replays will probably be available soon too. Alright, so Acid Plants. This is one of the maps that's doesn't really have a great tank spot. I was talking about the benefits of Lost of Found, and then Catalyst, and I brought up Dreamcatcher, but Acid Plant not so much. Bit of a longer map, a bit of a windy little turn here in the middle, so makes it a little bit longer, and then third base, not so abusive. Sometimes tanks down here on this edge can be kind of annoying, but those are usually later tank pushes, not the super fast ones like we saw from him in the first game. MMA, showing his weaknesses to Protoss in this best of 5 so far. This is not too surprising for me, but it is something that MMA sometimes seems to grasp, where he'll have a couple of good comebacks in this matchup and kind of go back to the champion that we know him as. I mean, casting him, I think it was the People Images Cup a few months back, I thought he was a goner against Zest. I think it was actually the rematch from this one, I guess, or this is a rematch from that one, and whatever. But he had a very bad opener against a 2-base charge all-in, which is exactly what Zest did, and I was just like, okay, he's a goner, and MMA ended up winning that. And the only thing I could really explain it was base trades, first of all, always mix things up, right? But also MMA's just championship, I don't even know how to say it, like, ability. It's like there's some secret ability that these guys, the renowned players of StarCraft 2, can just flip on and I'll switch at some point. It's always like, well, I guess that's what happens. But I'm talking about charge it all ins, past games, and we have a proxy Stargate Zest, not really known for his cheeses, and this is not really a cheese. I mean, it's like proxy Stargate's definitely not as potent as it once was, and even then, it wasn't doing a ton of damage because it's usually scouted or kind of initially defended against anyways. I mean, Terrans had to get so used to the idea of proxy Stargate when it was released in Heart of the Swarm, and then when it was a potent combination with 2 Robo Proxy at the beginning of patch 4.0, that, you know, we've learned, right? We just placed our Widow Mines in the mineral fields and Marines in the other one, and we're good to go. So it's just usually not a great build. But what's nice for Zest on this map is that it's very hard to scout anything going wrong. The Reaper cannot get in there to scout, especially with the way that Zest is walled off, so very clever by him. But 2 Adepts, I said that in the first game, kind of a reveal. If you're going to start guessing what's happening, you're going to guess a Stargate if there's 2 Adepts. But it's coming at a much faster time than usual, and that's the real rub of things. It's like there's 4 Marines in the natural, which is enough. That is the new count of Marines that takes down an Oracle, if you're unaware. But where is the Widow Mine? it is over here because he expected the Stargate to be, you know, across the map. He expected the Oracle to fly straight to the main from the top left, not from the bottom left. So, tried to be a little clever with his Widow Mine. Almost got a ton of SCVs killed, but some good Marine positioning. Ends up saving things and a good pull in his SCVs. Unfortunately, the Mule, well, it's actually not going to die. The Pulsar Beam was deactivated. Lucky Mule. But that was a smart move, because you also were going to expect a second Oracle at this point. Then a Banshee opener for MMA, he was trying to hide it, and Oracle would be a little too shy to dive that deep, again, if it was coming from the north, but it came from the south. So, unfortunately for MMA, this build was scouted, and this is a simple answer here for Zest. You build maybe one more Oracle, okay, fine, sure. Definitely gonna have Revelation, then you build Phoenix. Banshees are light units, and they die very quickly to Phoenix, obviously Revelation. The complicated part about Revelation is that they have more than one Banshee, but MMA knows he was scouted and is not going to invest a ton into it, not even go for that cloak anymore, just going right into that Raven. Keeping the Raven alive if they go for more than one Phoenix can be a bit tricky, but I think Zest just went for the one. Yeah. Nothing in the production tab. Getting that third base very, very quickly. Knew he was in a good position. Knew what his opponent was doing build order-wise. No sneaky 3 racks that's going to surprise him. And is now finishing up those gateways. The difference is you can see how pro gamers can really read into the games and are able to change their builds ever so slightly. As at this stage of play, when you're, you know, top 50 players, not even like top 50 GM, but top 50 players in the world, you're going to need to know how to do that. I put Zest, actually. Like, Zest is far greater than top 50. He's top 10, maybe higher. I think there'd be a lot of discussion around that, but top 5, like, you know what? He recently got second place in GSL. I think it's pretty safe to say he's top 5. But MMA is more like, he's kind of just top 50 Korean scene, and then, I don't know. I'd have to actually really think about where MMA would be placed. Because I believe a lot of foreigners can take him on, so I'm trying to... Is top 50 world an accurate statement? Maybe. I'll leave that up for you guys to discuss in the comments. But anyways, it did have the Banshee do absolutely no damage. In a similar vein, though, you know, let's take into account that the Oracle didn't do any damage. Killed, what, 1 SCV? Maybe that was something else, so... Oracle does cast Revelation. Looks like a Widow Mine was taken out. What did it shoot, though? Did it just kill an Oracle and I missed it? Well, it didn't shoot a Phoenix because it's still healthy, so I actually don't know what happened there. Maybe it was the Reaper. Oh, let's do Widow Mines. Okay, well, that one does the trick. Very clever spot, and of course that is easy for MMA to do because he's reacting out those Widow Mines. They can be placed all over the map, and Zest has to be a little bit more careful. But still, 2 Phoenix, 2 Oracles. It's a decent enough hit squad. It's a decent enough scouting squad. MMA picks up his units, but they were still under Revelation. And while it does go away once they pick up on the medevac, you can still see the act of them being picked up. And that's what happens when you do that. Okay, luckily there weren't more than 2 Phoenix, so the medevacs survive. Funnily enough, there's not enough anti-air to really save those medevacs, I feel, but... Yeah, the Oracles could try and kill everything here. Oh well. Stalkers are well positioned at the third base. Precautionary measures, 2 shield batteries. Probably not... you know what? No, that actually might still be a necessity. Even though MMA is trying to be cheeky by going for a drop, if he did just pull off his units here, which is exactly what he's doing, that third base would still be kind of difficult to hold. But Zest is finishing up his plus... Well, he's finished up +1. He's got Blink on the way. There's his +1 armor. There we go. Charged on the way. MMA trying to hit, basically, specifically before charge. He's on 5 racks. He did not go for a 3rd CC yet. It would be in the cards if this did any damage, but as is, he really needs to do that damage. And getting a medevac site immediately is not great. Revelation on the Widow Mine, so they could be target fired. Anti-air missile is fantastic to have, but those force fields also very good. And again, that lack of healing now that medevac is down as bad news. MMA almost has that +1 armor. He would have a nice upgrade lead with the anti-armor in effect. His army could certainly take it on if it was on even grounds, but these force fields are making things so complicated and immortal. actually doing a lot of damage. It's mostly a Marauder army, and Zest might be down 20 army supply, but he still has those shield batteries to fall back on. He still has, I think, a stronger army in general, and all the defender's advantages that you usually have when you're fighting on your side of the map. And if this push doesn't work, MMA is as good as dead. He's trying to take every last unit out that he possibly can. He's trying to rally across the map, but it's a very large map. You see in the mini-map, the whininess of it is directly affecting his reinforcement rate, and that is it. GG, Zest. Not 2-0ing to take out the series, but 3-0ing MMA to take him out of the series. Well done, Zest, showing that he is a powerhouse, even if he does get absolutely bopped by Maru.